Before you think karma always comes quickly, let me tell you what happened. Because if you had asked me 4 years ago whether I'd ever answer her phone call, I would have laughed. Actually, I would have blocked her. She didn't just steal the man I loved. She stole the future I'd spent 6 years building. The wedding. The house we'd picked out online. The baby names we'd argued over for fun. Even my favorite coffee shop. She took all of it. And somehow, she walked away smiling. Or at least, that's what I believed. Until the day she called me. She was crying so hard, I almost didn't recognize her voice. The first thing she whispered was, "I don't know who else to call." For a moment, I thought it was some kind of joke. Then she said 6 words I'll never forget. "Everything you warned me about happened." I froze. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I had spent 3 years imagining that moment. And when it finally came, it didn't feel the way I expected. My name isn't important. Neither is hers. Or his. They're trying to rebuild their lives. And honestly, so am I. I'm 33 now. Back then, I was 29. Freshly engaged. Hopelessly in love. Completely convinced I'd already met the person I'd grow old with. His name was Ryan. We met at a friend's birthday party. I spilled an entire glass of lemonade on his shirt. He laughed. Asked for my number anyway. By our third date, he told me he wanted to marry me someday. People usually say that's a red flag. But with Ryan, everything felt easy. Natural. Safe. For 6 years, we were inseparable. We survived long distance. Job losses. Family drama. Even my father's cancer diagnosis. Whenever life became unbearable, Ryan was the person holding my hand. That's why, when he proposed, I didn't hesitate for a second. The ring wasn't expensive. He couldn't afford diamonds. Instead, he bought a sapphire. He said, "It's different. So are you." I cried. Said yes. Called my mom before we even left the park. She cried too. My dad hugged Ryan tighter than he'd ever hugged me. For the first time in years, everything felt perfect. Wedding planning consumed our lives. Guest lists. Cake tastings. Flowers. Seating charts. The kind of stress couples laugh about later. Or at least, that's what everyone told us. I even became friends with one of my new coworkers during that time. Her name was Chloe. She'd transferred from another office. Confident. Funny. The kind of woman who made every room brighter. She complimented my engagement ring the first day we met. Asked to see wedding photos every week. Helped me choose invitation designs. Even came dress shopping with me once. Looking back, that's the part that still makes me sick. She wasn't pretending to become my friend. She was studying my life. About 3 months before the wedding, Ryan changed. Not dramatically. Just enough to make me wonder. He started sleeping with his phone under his pillow. Working late. Smiling at messages he'd never explain. Every time I asked if something was wrong, he'd kiss my forehead. "I'm just stressed." I believed him. Because that's what love does. It fills in the blanks with hope. Then something strange happened. One Friday afternoon, I left work early because I wasn't feeling well. I stopped at Ryan's favorite bakery. Bought cinnamon rolls. Thought I'd surprise him. When I pulled into our apartment parking lot, his car wasn't there. Odd. He'd texted me an hour earlier saying he was working from home. I figured he'd gone to grab lunch. No big deal. I carried the pastries upstairs anyway. The apartment was empty. Silent. I set the bag on the kitchen counter. That's when I noticed his tablet. Still unlocked. A message appeared before the screen dimmed. "Can't wait to see you tonight, Redheart." My heart skipped. At first, I assumed it was meant for me. Then I noticed the contact name. C. Not Claire. Not coworker. Just C. I opened it. I know. I shouldn't have. But sometimes, your instincts move before your conscience can catch them. The conversation stretched back months. Good morning. Good night. Inside jokes. Hotel reservations. Photos. Then, one picture made my hands start shaking. Ryan. Smiling into the camera. A woman's hand resting on his chest. I recognized the bracelet immediately. I'd complimented it just 2 days earlier. Chloe. I don't remember sitting down. I don't remember breathing. I just remember staring at the screen. Waiting for my brain to tell me I'd misunderstood. It never did. Instead, the front door unlocked. Ryan walked inside carrying takeout. He smiled. "You're home early." I looked up. Still holding the tablet. His smile disappeared instantly. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he quietly set the food on the counter. He already knew. There was no point denying it. I asked only one question. Why her? Not. Are you cheating? Not. How long? Just. Why her? He closed his eyes. And answered with a sentence that still echoes inside my head. I never meant for you to find out like this. Not. I'm sorry. Not. It was a mistake. Just. I never meant for you to find out. That's when I realized something terrifying. He wasn't sorry he cheated. He was sorry. His secret had ended. I packed one suitcase. Called my older brother. And left. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the ring. I didn't slap him. Sometimes, the deepest heartbreak is completely silent. The next morning, he called 32 times. I ignored every one. By the third day, he stopped trying. A week later, our wedding venue canceled the reservation. Friends started asking questions. Family members whispered. Some blamed him. Some blamed me. Then, something happened that hurt even more than the affair itself. 3 months later, Ryan and Chloe announced their engagement. The wedding date? The exact same weekend. That was supposed to be ours. I stared at the announcement for nearly an hour. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. People calling them perfect together. Nobody knew that she was wearing the life she'd stolen from me. And that's when I made myself one promise. I would never speak to either of them again. I truly believed that chapter of my life was over. I had no idea. 3 years later, she would be the one begging me for help. For 3 years, I kept my promise. No calls. No texts. No social media stalking. I rebuilt my life one quiet day at a time. I moved to a smaller apartment. Started therapy. Changed jobs. Learned how to sleep without checking whether Ryan had made it home safely. People think healing looks dramatic. It doesn't. Most of the time. It looks like making coffee for one. Watching a movie alone without crying. realizing you haven't thought about the betrayal for an entire afternoon. Then a whole day. Then a week. Eventually, the pain becomes a scar instead of an open wound. I even started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. His name was Daniel. He wasn't charming in the effortless way Ryan had been. He was steady. Honest. The kind of man who answered questions directly. The kind of man who never made me wonder where he was. For the first time in years, I felt safe. And that was exactly when Chloe called. It was a Tuesday night. Rain hammered against my apartment windows. Daniel had just left after dinner. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. All I heard at first was breathing. Uneven. Panicked. Finally, a voice whispered, "Claire?" My stomach tightened. "Chloe?" She started crying so hard I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Between sobs she said, "Please don't hang up." I should have. Every instinct told me to end the call. Instead, I stayed silent. Then came the sentence that changed everything. Everything you warned me about happened. The problem was, I had never warned her about anything. I had cut her out of my life before I knew what she was capable of. So what did she mean? We met the next morning at a small cafe across town. I chose a place where nobody knew us. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. The confident woman who used to glide through the office in designer heels was gone. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked exhausted. Older. Defeated. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the wedding invitations she helped me address. The dress shopping trip. The messages. The lies. My sympathy hardened into caution. She sat down and wrapped both hands around a coffee cup as if she were trying to keep herself from shaking apart. "Why are you here?" I asked. She looked up. "Because you're the only person who might understand." I laughed once. Sharp. Bitter. That's an interesting choice. Tears filled her eyes again. I deserve that. For several minutes she couldn't speak. Finally she whispered, "Ryan has been cheating on me." I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just a strange emptiness. "With who?" She swallowed hard. "I don't know how many." My chest tightened despite myself. She explained that 6 months after their wedding, Ryan became distant. Late nights. Secretive phone calls. Business trips that didn't appear on his work calendar. The exact same pattern. I listened without interrupting. Each detail felt like an echo of my own past. Then she slid a folder across the table. Inside were screenshots. Hotel receipts. Dating app notifications. Bank statements showing thousands of dollars spent on restaurants and jewelry she had never received. My hands started trembling. Not because I was shocked. Because I was realizing something far worse. Ryan hadn't changed after leaving me. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. This was who he was. "When did you find out?" I asked. 2 weeks ago. "And you called me because..." She looked down at the table. "Because I finally understand what I did to you." Silence settled between us. The rain outside had slowed to a soft drizzle. Chloe wiped her eyes and continued. "I thought I was different." I didn't answer. "I thought he loved me more than he loved you." The honesty in that sentence hit harder than any apology could have. She wasn't trying to rewrite history. She was admitting the ugly truth. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "He told me your relationship had been over for months." I stared at her. What? He said you were staying out of habit. He said you were both too afraid to end it. The room seemed to tilt. For 3 years I had believed Chloe knowingly pursued an engaged man. Now I was learning Ryan had been telling 2 completely different stories. To me, he was the devoted fiancé working late for our future. To her, he was a trapped man whose relationship had already died. Did you believe him? I asked quietly. She nodded once. At first. And later? Her voice broke. Later I didn't want to know the truth. That answer hurt because it was probably the most honest thing either of us had said all morning. Sometimes betrayal survives because everyone involved chooses the version of reality that hurts the least. I should have walked away then. Instead, I asked, why did you marry him? She gave a sad little laugh. Because by the time I realized who he really was, I had already destroyed everything. Those words lingered between us. Destroyed everything. My engagement. Our friendship. Her own integrity. And now. Her marriage. Chloe opened her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a sapphire engagement ring. My sapphire engagement ring. Ryan had apparently kept it after I left. Then, instead of selling it, he gave it to Chloe. My breath caught. She pushed the box toward me. I found out yesterday. I couldn't take my eyes off the stone. The same deep blue. The same tiny scratch near the setting where I had dropped it on our kitchen floor years earlier. For a moment, the cafe disappeared. I was back in the park where Ryan had promised I was different. Different enough to marry. Different enough to lie to. Different enough to recycle my ring for another woman. Chloe whispered, I'm so sorry. And for the first time since she sat down, I believed her. I closed the box and slid it back across the table. Keep it. She looked startled. I don't want it. Neither do I. A long silence followed. Then she asked the question I hadn't expected. Do you think people like him ever change? I looked out the window at the rainwater running down the glass. I think people can change when they decide the truth is less painful than the lie. I met her eyes. Has Ryan decided that? She didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. When we finally stood to leave, Chloe reached for my hand, then stopped herself. Thank you for meeting me. I nodded. As she turned toward the door, she looked back once. There's one more thing you should know, she said. My heart began to pound. Ryan doesn't know I called you. Then she walked out into the rain, leaving me alone with a cold cup of coffee, 1,000 unanswered questions. And the terrifying feeling that the worst part of the story still hadn't happened. I stared at her. Neither of us spoke. The coffee between us had gone cold. People around us laughed. Ordered drinks. Went about their lives. Completely unaware that mine had just collided with the woman who once destroyed it. Finally, I broke the silence. Why are you really here? She looked down at her wedding ring. Slowly twisted it off. Placed it on the table. Then whispered. Because I finally understand what you felt. I wanted to feel satisfied. I really did. For years. I'd imagined this exact moment. Her crying. Her marriage falling apart. Karma finally catching up. But sitting across from me. She didn't look like the villain anymore. She looked broken. Just like I had been. She pulled a folder from her bag. Medical bills. Credit card statements. Bank notices. Everything was months overdue. He emptied our savings. I frowned. What? He said he was investing. He wasn't. My stomach tightened. He lost everything. She nodded. Not gambling. Crypto. Day trading. Business ideas. There was always another opportunity. Another promise. Another lie. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it sounded so familiar. Ryan always believed he could fix tomorrow. Without telling anyone what he'd broken today. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. He cheated on me. I blinked. What? She nodded. Twice that I know of. Probably more. I didn't know what to say. The man who cheated with her eventually cheated on her too. The cycle hadn't stopped. It had simply chosen a new victim. I found messages. She wiped another tear. Just like you did. I even asked him the same question. I looked at her. What question? She smiled sadly. Why her? A chill ran through me. History had repeated itself. Word for word. For a long moment. Neither of us spoke. It felt strange. The woman I'd hated for years was finishing my sentences. I thought I'd won. She laughed bitterly. I thought if he chose me, that meant I was special. She shook her head. I wasn't. I was just next. That sentence stayed with me. People don't always steal happy relationships. Sometimes they inherit unfinished problems. Wrapped in pretty paper. She reached into her purse again. This time, she handed me something much smaller. An envelope. My name was written across the front. My heart skipped. What is this? I found it. Hidden in one of Ryan's old boxes. I think he wanted you to have it. I hesitated. Then slowly opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Ryan's handwriting. Dated 2 years earlier. If you're reading this, it means I finally had the courage to let go. I stopped breathing. He wrote that he'd almost mailed it dozens of times. But never did. Because every apology felt too small. Every explanation sounded like an excuse. Then came the sentence that surprised me most. I didn't leave because I loved Chloe more. I left because I stopped recognizing the person I had become. And instead of fixing myself, I chased the excitement of becoming someone new. I read the next paragraph twice. Cheating had nothing to do with you. Everything to do with me. I kept looking for happiness in different people, instead of becoming someone capable of protecting it. Tears blurred the page. Not because I wanted him back. That version of us had died years ago. But because, for the first time, he wasn't lying. The letter ended simply. If life has been kind to you, don't let my worst decision become the reason you stop trusting good people. You deserved better than the man I became. I'm sorry. I folded the letter carefully. Slid it back inside the envelope. Looked across the table. I forgive him. Chloe looked shocked. Really? I nodded. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It just means I'm tired of carrying it. She cried harder than before. I'm sorry. I know. I really am. I believed her. Not because her pain canceled mine, but because regret has a face. And I was looking directly at it. We talked for nearly 3 hours. Not about Ryan. About life. Therapy. Loneliness. Starting over. The strange ways people try to fill empty places inside themselves. Before leaving, she asked one final question. Do you think we'll ever be okay? I smiled gently. I think we'll become different. And maybe different is enough. Months passed. Ryan filed for bankruptcy. The divorce became final. Neither of them fought over anything. There wasn't much left to fight for. Chloe moved to another city. Started teaching art classes. Every now and then, she'd send me a photo. A painting. A sunrise. A stray dog she'd adopted. Nothing dramatic. Just proof she was still moving forward. As for Ryan, I never saw him again. Until one rainy afternoon. I was leaving the grocery store. Arms full of bags. When someone quietly said my name. I turned. There he was. Older. Gray beginning to appear in his beard. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically. Emotionally. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then he smiled politely. Hi. Hi. He glanced toward the parking lot. I heard you're doing well. I am. I'm glad. He nodded. Started walking away. Then stopped. Without turning around. He quietly said, "You were the best thing that ever happened to me." I just realized it too late. I didn't answer. Because there wasn't anything left to say. Sometimes, closure isn't a conversation. Sometimes, it's realizing the silence no longer hurts. A year later, I met someone. His name was Daniel. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't mysterious. He didn't sweep me off my feet. Instead, he showed up. Every single day. When he said he'd call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. When something bothered him, he talked about it. At first, that kind of honesty felt almost boring. Then I realized, peace often does. One evening, Daniel asked me something. What's the biggest lesson you've ever learned? I thought about Ryan. About Chloe. About that cafe. About all the years I'd spent replaying the past. Then I smiled. The people who betray you. They don't always lose. They don't always suffer. Karma doesn't always arrive the way we expect. He listened quietly. So what did you learn? I looked at him. I learned that healing isn't waiting for someone else to get what they deserve. It's giving yourself permission to stop living inside the day they hurt you. People think betrayal is the end of a love story. Sometimes, it's just the end of the wrong one. The hardest part isn't losing the person you loved. It's letting go of the future you imagined with them. But here's something nobody tells you. One day, you wake up, and their name doesn't hurt anymore. Their memories stop feeling like open wounds. Their betrayal becomes just another chapter. Not the whole book. If you're watching this because someone broke your heart, please remember this. Don't measure your healing by whether karma finds them. Measure it by the day you realize you've stopped checking. Because that's the moment they finally stop controlling your story. And that's when your real life begins.